Hiya folks, Kris from the present here. It's been a little bit dead on our front, and for that I can only apologize. This isn't a full episode. In fact, it's not really anything other than me tapping in to tell you guys that I really appreciate you coming back and sticking with us. We have been, and this is not an excuse, it's an explanation, we have been very busy. The problem that we've found with focusing very intently on achieving our goals and getting good is that we tend to focus on our goals and get good, and then stuff starts to happen. There's an episode that we've been meaning to do for some time that sort of goes over what's been happening for both of us on the work and home fronts, and it's just been frenetic, and we have not had a chance to sit down and actually record that podcast. Now some of the things that felt important at the time have changed in nature due to the fact that they are now cast in hindsight to what is happening in the present. And I know that sounds very ephemeral, but it just means that there's no real purpose to rehashing it in detail. And then that led us into a spiral of, well, then what do we talk about? Because here's the thing, both Jayden and I are now under non-disclosure agreements for the work that we are doing. And I understand that that's a bit of a anticlimax for those of you who have followed our journey. We quit our jobs, we started this podcast, we've been sharing our journey of focusing on what matters to us, figuring out what matters to us, and trying to get where we are. We've not gotten to our final destination, but we have reached a point where we're on the right track. So I suppose you can say that something worked. There's probably something that we were doing that got us to a point that we were aiming to go. There's a long way to go yet, but I think that means that the documentary process that we had up until this point contains some value. And I think now we have to move into a stage where it's not documentary, it's speculative. And when things become speculative, we really have to have a reason to share it with you. Otherwise it becomes a opinion-driven speculation, and there's no real value to projecting that other than to try and convert people to our points of view, and that's not really what we were here to do in the first place. So instead, for this little update, I've decided that I'm just going to stick to the facts. Both Jayden and I have jobs in the direction that we were traveling that was unrelated to the podcast. And honestly, if I look back on how it happened, I'd laid the seeds for this even before I'd started working on it. And so I can't actually draw that long enough bow to say, step by step, here's how we got there. In the future, when this is also hindsight, I'll be able to talk in more depth and in more specific terms about what that looked like and what lessons to take away from it. But I think trying to take lessons away from it when it's still in motion would be foolish. And so the fact is that something's working for now. And Jayden and I have had a meeting to discuss the future of this podcast, and we have recommitted ourselves to wanting to bring something to this podcast. But between the non-disclosure agreements that we've signed about the work that we are doing and the fact that we can no longer really explain around the fact of luck and of chance. Now, I personally don't believe in luck. I think it's preparation meeting opportunity. But it's a good shorthand, and trying to explain that in a way that seems logical to say, if you follow these steps, there will be a door open for you. We just didn't feel comfortable with that. The primary reason the podcast has been so quiet lately is that we've been really busy with the work. This year I've been intending to move, but we just haven't had the resources to do that, and so our priority on my front has been to just work and collect resources. And when we're in this, intermediary state of just sitting atop a mountain fortress of boxes, also trying to keep the place tidy for all the inspections while trying to get some work done, it's just another thing on top of that to say, hey, this free voluntary thing we do, let's prioritize that. And so, as I say, we've had a chat about it, and we do want to re-spark this course. We don't know what it looks like yet. We haven't had that conversation because we are not sure what the next few months are going to look like. But that's the thing. While the podcast isn't coming out, I will be sharing these updates. I will be sharing some things around what I'm doing and what I'm learning and stuff you can come join me in. Again, we have the Discord there that you can join and talk to us if you want in the meantime. The main focus of the podcast was to give a beacon to the people in that muddy middle space who weren't benefiting from things like the rookies and the these programs for graduates. Like, what if you're not a graduate? What if you didn't go to school? What if you did, but it was a bad school? What if you're good enough, but you just haven't had the opportunity? And we really wanted to create an environment around that, and we still want to create an environment around that. So that's, as best as we can tell, what we are going to bring back to this once we have the resources to do it justice. A lot of the things that we could share about what we're doing are very specific to us, and so until we have some more general idea of topics and interesting things from our takeaways that we can bring and project, there's really no point in saying here's the way we did it, because that door is closed once it's been used. I can only tell you what I'm interested in. And anyway, I just wanted to come in here with the facts and tell you that we are recommitting to the podcast. We'll probably relaunch it. It might not be the same season. It might not be even in a season. We might change the title because we've got a different perspective now. And we will come back. We just don't have a plan for that yet. But we're going to build something. It's going to be great. And I hope that you stick with us. And please interact with us, because that's what we're trying to build here. That's all I had today. Oh, and guess what? I've got the music back. So enjoy that on your way out. Bye.